Hello and welcome to episode 2 of our DataEase tutorials. Today we will be looking into forms within DataEase. Basically, forms in DataEase are used for organizing, storing, and managing data in a user-friendly manner. They act as the interface for entering, editing, viewing, and manipulating data within the database. Basically, they are the bridge between the data and the interaction of the user with it. To create your form, simply just click here, name your form. So, for example, in this scenario, we'll be looking into employees. So, when creating a form, you will be creating a table where the data is stored. Strictly speaking, it will not always be the case that you will be creating a new table with every form, but we will go into that later on, as this is not that important at this stage. Just create the table with your name and click OK. The table will be named the same, and that's it. We'll start going into how you can start formulating your form. Basically, there are these two buttons over here, which is the designer view and the user view. The designer view will be what the programmer will be seeing, and the user view, of course, will be what the user is seeing. We'll see eventually how we can manipulate this and do it as we please. So basically, the most important thing to know about a form is what is a field and a record. So basically, a field is like a column in a spreadsheet, and the record is like a row in a spreadsheet. Let's start with creating our first field. So ideally, the first field that you create is the primary key or the most important field within the form. So for example, in this case, since this is an employee form, we'll say employee ID. Now with naming fields, it's a little bit important to ensure that these are as simple and as friendly for you yourself to eventually refer to, because these will be used in codes, in relating forms and tables together. So this is quite important. So in this case, I don't like to use spaces within the naming of the fields. And so since this will be the primary key, this will be let's say a sequenced ID. We'll go into what these are and what these do once we're going through the fields, because that's the most easiest way to understand them. So we'll be saying to DataEase to give a number to each record automatically as a sequenced ID. We'll give it a length of 5, which is the default length, and starting from 1, saying that this is required, and strictly speaking it can be read only as well, because you don't need to insert anything over here. I mean, if you want to change it, you would not do sequenced ID. And that's field number 1. Eventually, to make it easier for the user to understand what that field actually does, because right now, if we go to the user view, he'll just see this number 1. That doesn't mean anything. You'll create a text icon, put it over there, and say employee ID. And you just can edit it as much as you like. You can right click display, put it in the center, size to fit. You can play around with this and understand yourself. I like to simply do this and center them vertically. Then we'll move on to the other fields we're going to be using. So again, we're using an example of employees. You will obviously need the name of the individuals. I prefer to use, for the name and surname, I prefer to use two different fields rather than one. However, if need be, we can do them automatically through DataEase. We'll give this a length of 55 just in case you've got people that have very long names, and say that this is required. That's it. We will then do the surname. Again, let's do it 55 and required. And then we can do the hire date. We'll use date and extend it because I prefer it like this. And then the salary. We'll use currency, and let's give them 6 digits because they might have very large salaries. Then this section they will be working in, and we can use a choice list for this. And let's say, for example, there is the finance that you can choose from, HR, administration, and it can be this for now, and it's required. Then we can use the time in. Actually, this one will need to be time, and in that format. We can also do timeout. And whether, actually let's use, because over here there's the field, a checkbox, a radio button, a list box. You can invent and try as much as possible. Let's do a checkbox for this one and say whether the employee is archived or not. Now, for the sake of having everything in a presentable manner, I'd like to select all of them and give them the same vertical size. No, let's select this one as the last, because it will take the last one and do them all the same. So for example, everything will then be like that. Now I'll cut it off from over here, so I'll just do the displays myself, and we'll continue from there. Hello and welcome back. Now I've arranged and made as presentable as possible the text icons with the fields. Just for your information, let's say that you wanted this to be aligned horizontally with this, and let's say you wanted this to be aligned on the right with this. Basically what it does is it takes or it bases the alignment on the last thing that you've clicked. So let's create our first record. You can go into the user view, always save before, and let's say it's John Doe and was hired on the 1st of January 22 with a salary of 75,000 in the finance section, with a time in at 9 in the morning until 5. To go through the fields, you can use select or just click between them. I mean, tab is the easiest way, and you can actually manipulate from which field it goes to. However, we'll go through that later on. Basically that's it. What I've changed from the previous part is that I've made archive to be not required. The reason for that we'll go into later on. However, you can now save, and that's it. You've created your first record in this form. will go into the rest of the tutorials in the next episodes.